Welcome to the Museum of Newport Irish History. The museum was founded in 1996 by Mr. Vince Arnold. This particular interpretive center here in the 5th Ward in Newport opened in 2011, so we're in basically our 5th or 6th year. The museum tells the story of the Irish emigration from Ireland into Newport and Newport County, and the contributions of the Irish in building Newport. They were actually city builders here. They were nation builders. They came here to work, and the museum basically commemorates the working Irish in Newport, and we can talk a little bit, on the other hand, of some of the wealthy Irish in Newport. They arrived, the records go back to the 1600s. We have some records of the Irish at Trinity Episcopalian Church in downtown Newport, because there was no Catholic church at the time. The first Catholic church was 1828 in Newport. In the 1700s, more Irish came, including Bishop Berkeley, who preached at Trinity Episcopalian Church, or Anglican Church. The 1800s, they started coming in numbers, and behind me is a board, excuse me, that depicts the Portsmouth coal miners. The first Irish in numbers arrived here in 1810, and for 100 years they mined the Portsmouth coal mines. They came from Allihies on the Beara Peninsula in County Cork. And then around the museum, as you look at the various walls here, it describes truly the Irish contributions to building Newport. The canal diggers that arrived in the 1820s to dig the Blackstone Canal, the Farmington Canal in Connecticut, the Erie Canal in Pennsylvania. And after the canals, it was principally Irish labor that built the Transcontinental Railroad, stretching from here to Promontory Point, near Ogden, Utah. Locally, they worked in the textile mills along this very street, Thames Street. There were 4 mills. There are still 2 of them left, beautifully restored mills on Thames Street. They also, behind me is a board that depicts the Fall River Line, the 15 steamship line during the Gilded Age. For 90 years, it was principally Irish labor that worked the waterfront here, repairing the ships. It was the Irish on board the Fall River Line that were the servants, the cooks. So for 90 years, again, the Irish participated in the Fall River steamship line. In the mid-1800s, the wall over here talks about Fort Adams. For 33 years, from 1824 to 1857, up to 400 Irish constructed Fort Adams. And that was at the time, and still is, the largest coastal defense fortification in the United States post-War of 1812. In the latter part of the 1800s, up to around 2,000 Irish worked in the mansions up on Bellevue Ave. And at that particular time, that's when they also started moving into and residing right here in the 5th Ward, and that's the reason that the museum is located here. This is still principally Irish heaven down here, if you will, in the 5th Ward. And the museum is a tribute to those workers, to their building of Newport. As persecuted as the Irish were when they arrived here, by 1895, we had our first Irish mayor, Patrick Boyle, and he is the first of 15 Irish mayors up to today, where we have Mayor Harry Winthrop. So it's a real story of although heavily persecuted originally, is how they were embraced by the Newport community and the contributions to building this great town of ours, Newport, Rhode Island. The Irish, of course, religion and church is very, very important to the Irish. I mentioned earlier that when they first arrived, we did not have a Catholic church in Newport. until 1828. The early marriages that were recorded at Trinity Episcopalian Church. In 1828 was the first Irish community here, St. Joseph's Parish, in an old schoolhouse located at the site now of the Barney Street Cemetery, a beautifully restored Irish cemetery in the heart of downtown Newport, right behind, interestingly enough, Toro's Synagogue. And I'll get back to that in a minute. Following St. Joseph's Church in 1852, we have a beautiful model here of St. Mary's Church, dedicated in 1852. The foundation was built through Irish labor on their off hours from building Fort Adams. They arrived at the church. It was a requirement then for Irish men to contribute labor to the church, and they did so in building the foundation. The church is an absolutely magnificent tribute to the Irish and Catholicism. Stands here today. This model was a gift of Father Chris von Molesky, the pastor of St. Mary's Church. It was also the site of, in 1953, the marriage of President John F. Kennedy and Jacqueline Bouvier. So the church has a very significant historical meaning as well as a very significant religious meaning. Now I mentioned, excuse me, that behind Toro's Synagogue, another interesting story, the Rabbi Emeritus of Toro's Synagogue is Rabbi Theodore Lewis, Dublin-born Irish Jew, who served here many, many years, died in 1910, still listed as the Rabbi Emeritus, and he headed up the largest Jewish congregation in Dublin, Ireland, prior to his arrival here in Newport.
This is actually quite a fine building itself. I saw that last night.
It's absolutely, another beautiful building. I think the year was 1763, the first synagogue in the United States. Again, beautifully restored, within 1/2 mile walk of St. Mary's Church, and behind it is the Barney Street Cemetery, worth a stop. This museum, the Museum of Newport Irish History, is the caretaker of that cemetery. And we put a lot of volunteer labor and care into maintaining the cemetery.